How exactly is the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit really about segregation? You'll find out right after this. Hey everybody, I am Taylor from Beard vs. Geek, where I tell you it is okay to be a man and a geek at the same time. Today we are back in Disney, which brings us to the 1988 hit movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, this movie set a new precedent for animated movies. It won 4 Academy Awards and it made the studios a boatload of money. But what is it really about? Most people would say that it's a friendly detective film where Eddie Valiant and Roger Rabbit try to find out who framed Roger Rabbit. Well, me, being the theorist slash historian slash geek slash man that I am, I have decided that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is really about segregation. Here are 3 reasons why. First off, though, we need to address the fact that within the Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie, toons, as they are called in the movie, or cartoons, are sentient beings. They think, they feel, they love, they act very similar to humans, although they can take a beating a lot more than humans can. But they are still sentient beings. They are alive. So with that in mind, let's go to number 1. Toontown is the quintessential segregated housing. As you see in this scene right here, you look from the human side of things over into Toontown, where everything is animated, everything is toons. Do you ever see a toon actually living in a place in the human world? The answer is no. No, you don't. All of the toons live in the Toontown. Even Roger and Jessica Rabbit both have successful entertainment careers. They live in Toontown. Along with everyone else, Mickey, Bugs, all of them live in Toontown with their own kind and not dispersed where humans live. They do not have houses out in Beverly Hills. They do not have houses in Hollywoodland. Instead, they have to live in Toontown. Now, this mimics very, very closely the Jim Crow laws of the South, and even some segregation still going on today in America. In the South, there were Jim Crow laws, which are laws that segregated blacks and whites. Now, these laws were in effect for about 100 years, and their effects are still seen today. And part of that was a segregation of housing, stating that African Americans at the time could only live within certain areas. And as soon as an African American moved into a predominantly white neighborhood, they faced fierce opposition by the way of physical violence, intimidation, and a lot of white people just moved out of the neighborhood, fearing that the African Americans were going to take over. Well, you see that in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Toons are accepted to live in Toontown, but cannot live with the rest of the humans. Humans being the white people, and toons being the black people in this situation. Number 2, Judge Doom, played by Christopher Walken, epitomizes the corruption of the legal system during the Jim Crow South. Do you want to know why felons are not allowed to vote? It's because of the Jim Crow South. They had a whole bunch of different laws preventing people from voting. For example, you had to take a literacy test. And if you did not pass that literacy test, then you could not vote. If you did pass the literacy test, there was a good chance that if you were African American, you would be arrested, carted off to jail, be tried and convicted as a felon, and therefore would lose your right to vote for the rest of your life. Well, that type of legal system, the people that would trump up charges and would cart African Americans off to jail and execute them several times out of 10 for things that they did not do, and that is seen with Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. For example, the first time we even meet this judge and the so-called carrier of justice was when he grabbed an innocent toon and executed it for no reason whatsoever. And apparently the only reason was to make a point to our hero Eddie Valiant, I mean, come on. The shoe didn't even do anything. It clearly feels pain. Has those eyes of, why me? Why me? Well, a lot of that happened in the South as well. African Americans were prosecuted and persecuted for crimes that they did not commit, and even had public lynchings on several occasions. This is heavily documented in the history of the American South. Now, finally, this brings us to number 3. Toons are stuck in entertainment and service jobs. You do not see any toon executives anywhere. In fact, the studio manager, Mr. Maroon, even says that the toons work for peanuts. Now, this is extremely similar to the jobs that African Americans were employed in predominantly during the 100 years of the Jim Crow laws. Well, if you were African American, the best that you could hope for at the time was an entertainment job, and become similar to Louis Armstrong, who became a famous musician and was generally accepted by white audiences. However, that was the exception to the rule. African Americans were in predominantly entertainment jobs, or they took janitorial jobs, or they were waiters, or bartenders, or just jazz entertainers, as depicted in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The actors are toons. The bartender is a toon. The waiters are toons. The jazz musicians are toons. The entertainment are toons. You never see a cartoon detective. You never see an executive. Now, all of this brings us to our hero, Eddie Valiant, who at the beginning of the film absolutely hates toons because one of them killed his brother, who was also a detective. But at the end of the movie, rather likes toons, and even goes off into Toonland when they're all singing the songs. Now, that main character is you and me in this scenario, or at least Euro-Americans, white people. Depicting the idea that what we don't really know about causes fear, this movie is actually encouraging white people, who is encouraging Euro-Americans, to understand African Americans better, to interact with them, and therefore have better relations with them. That wall in the Acme factory that separated the human world from the toon world was torn down at the end of the movie, which is a very big symbol wanting to tear down the barriers between segregation, between humans and toons, or between African Americans and Euro Americans. As moviegoers, we want to put ourselves in the movie and become the main character. And what does that main character become? More tolerant and understanding of this toon society, culture, and people. What do you think about this theory about how Who Framed Roger Rabbit is really about segregation? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. Great videos are coming out every week where I show you it is okay to be a man and a geek at the same time. You can even click on these 2 videos right here for some more manliness and geekiness. Because after all, if the women don't find you manly, they should at least find you geeky. And until next time, don't go shaving on me.